Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. Morning coffee, as always, it's Monday. Grumpy is in effect because it's just another Monday over here. With us is the Polish Prince Mateusz. What is up?
Not much here with some good old fashioned coffee and ready to take on the week, hopefully.
Yeah, I like how you finished with hopefully. Yeah, yeah, it should be quite the week over here for the boys too. So we'll start with our news. There's a bunch of like miscellaneous weird stuff, but we'll start with our news. Sounds like this saga is almost done over here with the Henderson doing the medical yesterday. I think one thing we never addressed was probably the price. Um, you good with the pricing over here? What we got for him?
What was it? 13 million up to
Uh,
20 or
12
12 up to 20?
and it says like add-ons, but I mean, I hope if it's the add-ons are based on appearances, I think we're in good shape. If the add-ons is in terms of
They're,
what they get done,
I was going to say they're going to throw in something like finishing first in the league. Ahead
yeah,
of,
something like that, then we're not getting anything else. But let's say 12. Are you okay with 12?
I mean, it's better than nothing, right? I think eventually when Hendo was going to leave, at whatever point he was going to leave, it was going to be on a free. We weren't going to sell him. I think his contract was going to run out, and then he was going to go to Sunderland, and everything was going to be fine. So I think now getting at least 12 million for him, it's fine. I think that's just where I really feel about everything about the situation right now. It's fine. It's whatever at this point.
Yeah, I'm at the same point now. I've gotten over it. It's done and over with. Um, and I think that's not bad money, really. Let's take it and run with it, kind of deal. If it was going to happen, might as well get something for it. I mean, we kind of complain about this for quite some time now when it comes to Keita and Ox and stuff like that. And we were like, God, even if it was 5 million and stuff like that. So anything is better than nothing.
Yeah, and I
So
think overall the money thing, I think most importantly, it frees up. I know getting 12 million is really nice, but then it also frees up all those weekly wages. And I think we've talked about that before, where when you have the likes of Ox and Firmino and Kate's already leaving, then having Milner and Hendo leave on top of that, that really opens up the door for a pretty decent pocket of money for weekly wages that you can then fund over to maybe a transfer instead or whatever the case might be. So
yeah, I mean that's fair. John says he's got his sights set on going anyway. Whatever we can get is fine money. It's an absolute shame though. So it is, and it's
yeah.
but you get what you can. I think I had left the door open for him to be able to come back, but I think the further it progressed, there was no way back. So at that stage, you kind of get what you can, and looks like we were ultimately happy with what we got out of this deal. We'll probably talk a lot about it, like on tonight's podcast too, like stuff that Klopp said in that interview. But obviously, this was not in the original plans. But Klopp flat out did say that everything gets his okay, and but that okay coming from Klopp and knowing Klopp could be as simple as, yeah, if he doesn't want to be here, I'm not going to keep somebody who doesn't want to be here. Um, Alan says no doubt Hando will donate to his various charities. You would think he would. That would be a smart
I mean,
PR
that's
move.
the only thing he can do for
Yeah,
that, especially that group. I think there's nothing else that he can literally do besides that.
exactly. I mean, I think it's not like he's going to be like, I'm going to make changes over there. That's why I'm going over there or something like that. Because otherwise, he's going to find out the hard way. So let's look at these vicious beasts over here. Um, these dangerous animals can't get into Saudi Arabia, apparently. I mean, I highly doubt. Okay, if he was going to Gerard's team, I could have seen this being a possibility. But as dangerous as vicious as they look, I would think it's just because he's going to one of the clubs owned by one of the four, if you will. It's just a matter of, oh, we just came up with a new rule. They're not vicious anymore. They're just freaking cute. And
Yeah,
Fabinho,
I mean, it's a really good thing that the Saudis are sticking to their morals and excluding something as horrific as a French bulldog. Man, a tough one there.
dude, I
But
was like, does he have like Rottweilers or something? Like I didn't know the dog. I don't follow him on Instagram.
and then you see a picture, they're just like, you're like, what?
You can come about those things? Hell no.
But just like you're saying, they're going to come up with something. Same way that I'm pretty sure there's some sort of law that states something about living with someone who you're not married with. And obviously Ronaldo isn't married to his partner. So, and he's playing there. I get it's Cristiano Ronaldo and all that, but they have laws and rules in place. So I'm sure they can bend it a little bit. I think the thing I feel worse about, I don't particularly find the French Bulldogs cute. And if I'm going to get canceled for that, I'm happy to die on that hill. I'm willing to die on that hill. They're not cute. But in their defense, and this is what I feel bad about, with the Saudi heat potentially, that's not a good climate for those dogs. That's what I feel.
Roaming the streets of Jeddah.
I don't care. I don't care. It's still not great for them. The little snouts. It's not good. It's not good.
Oh, is that what it goes by? I was not.
I'm not.
That's the thing about this morning show, man. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I did not realize that was a factor in how much the dogs get affected by heat. The one on the right looks a little constipated, so I don't know if that's a factor.
Dude, they always look constipated.
Oh, the other one. Get some emails from the French Bulldog community over here talking so much shit about French Bulldog. Yeah, I do not find them cute as well. I'll say that. Like, I would not have one, but why they consider them so dangerous? Like, it literally said considered dangerous.
Maybe dangerous for the dog's health because it's not great.
I highly doubt that's what they're thinking about. Alan says Fabs can have many wives out in Saudi Arabia. So that's why the other seat is empty. So there's going to be another wife holding the other French Bulldog in a couple of weeks over here.
But this is just it right here, right? This is kind of where we're going towards, what we're going after, is that essentially it's so comical.
Yeah.
To look at what is allowed and what isn't allowed and where the priorities lie in the feelings of the people there. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
And I don't know, like, it might have been one of those deals where something happened, so they threw it in the law, and they were like, why is this even here? Like, I can almost see them like, why do we even have this law kind of a deal, and like get rid of it. I highly doubt, like you said, I mean, there'll be an exception. The one on the right will get like a constipation exemption. The one on the left will be like, oh, it's the wife's comfort.
The dog is the dog has to live next to the constipation exemption all the time, so it gets a pass.
But yeah, you would think they would kind of like jump this hurdle and that deal will be over as well. I still think, I mean, there was a rumor at one point during the week that, no one needs that. No one needs that yet. But I think
we looked like French
Bayern
Bulldogs
news
there.
Came out as like Bayern maybe like trying to hijack the deal. You think they're like, hey, we love French Bulldogs, or French Bulldogs, as the Germans would say, without the R. Getting a lot of hate this morning.
I just thought that perhaps, they were just feeling bad about no, I guess we would feel bad about Sadio Mane not playing very well over there. I was gonna say they could, if they want to swoop in for Fabinho and just send Kimmich this way as well, just to like a nice little trade, I guess you can call it. That'd be pretty fun. But I don't see why they would necessarily be after Fabinho if they still have Kimmich. So maybe that was they felt that maybe Kimmich was leaving, and that's why they put some feelers out there. But yeah, I can't imagine them paying that amount of money for another Liverpool player near his 30s. I feel like they'd be getting deja vu.
Or maybe they're taking the Mane money and then converting it to Fab money.
Speaking of Mane, did you see that the Saudi club is offering 40 million for Mane? 40 million for this past year's Mane? Bullshit.
That's a good point, actually, because they got him for what, 50? I mean, that's a great deal for Bayern.
Oh yeah,
because you would think you got it, and now you're selling it as refurbished, and you're getting almost
a good
the
deal.
Money. That's a pretty good deal. Ryan says, "Good morning. I just accepted the deal with Saudi Arabia. See, everyone has a price. I don't know if they're going to take Ryan. He might be considered dangerous over there as well. I would think so. As long as you don't have French Bulldogs. Maybe Fabs could name one French pooch Mbappe. Yes. Good transition. He's almost like wasn't there. What else surprised me? Tush was the first one of us to see Barbies. Yeah, so this is okay. We have to explain this to everybody. I'm glad Victor brought this up because the funny thing is, I thought the same thing this morning when I looked at my Discord channel as of last night. If you're not a Discord channel, by the way, you probably should be. And the TV and radio is just one of the channels where people like suggest. I think it's radio, by the way, TV and film. I don't know why I said radio. Everybody's all the
You're
kids
showing your age.
Anyway, anyway, so it's like a TV and film. People recommend shows that they recently seen and stuff. And I think Rich came in and suggested the movie. But then Matush over here early in the day had told me they're going to the theater. And I never like even thought about it or put much thought into it. I was like, oh, okay, and stuff like that. And then he posts that he was the first in line to watch
I
Barbie.
didn't say I was the first in line. I was the first person. I was the first person to publicly say on our Discord channel that I went to see Barbie because Rich had gone to see Oppenheimer, and the classic Barbenheimer combination is what most people are after. We just went to go see Barbie very late. It was a 9 p.m. showing, so did not have time at midnight to then see.
But am I correct in saying it just came out and you are the first? One of the first.
I mean, it came out on Thursday.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when it came out because you probably had it circled on the calendar. I'm just saying, I had no idea. That's why I'm asking you.
It's not circled. It's just written Barbie in big letters. It was fun.
I'm assuming he means the Polish Barbie. I like that. I'm glad Paul brought that up because I had totally forgotten about to make point of that. I shouldn't say fun. I should say
no. It was honestly, it was a fun flick, and I would recommend it.
Really?
Yeah. No, honestly, it was fun. It was really well done, and there was a lot more depth to it than you could imagine in a Barbie movie, and I think part of that goes to Greta Gerwig and her team and her directing and the writing team. But yeah, it was good.
I don't know. It'll be one of those that eventually, when it comes out, he'll be painting the bedroom pink next. I don't know what you mean by next, because I think it's probably already pink. Am I correct in saying this?
Why do you think I blurred this all of a sudden?
There's a bunch of paint cans in the background, like pink paint spilling out. John says people talking about Barbie and Oppenheimer, rightfully so, but Mission Impossible was lit as well. Definitely recommend. I guess definitely would not be watching Mission Impossible. Not at the movie theaters, at least. I'll eventually catch it somewhere. It'll probably come to Netflix or something like that. When Mission Impossible 35 comes out, I'll watch this one. But
Tom Cruise is in a wheelchair, jumping out of a plane.
They're pushing him off the cliff.
Parachute comes off the wheelchair.
Wheels turn into guns and stuff. Actually, hey, we just wrote the script for Mission Impossible 34 over here. Indiana Jones, anybody seen this thing? Is it worth going to? So you ran to Barbie, but you didn't go to Harrison Ford?
I don't know why this is getting so much hate. I really don't. I think if you watch the movie, a lot of this, especially some of Alan's comments, will ring true in today's society. A little bit of some insecurity coming out, I feel. And I should note, actually, I am wearing pink shorts right now. I just looked down and I realized, yes, I am wearing pink shorts. A very
I mean, at least you didn't have to. That's nice of you to come out and admit it openly, because we wouldn't be able to know otherwise. I don't think it's pink. I would not be hanging out with Barbie anytime soon. I'll probably eventually watch it if it comes on one of the streaming things or something like that. But
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm just gonna hold that in the back of my head and wait until you see it in a couple of years.
If I'm watching, I'd be watching like Messi's. Pipper says we're all adults. Messi is scoring scripted goals in pink. It's 2023. Yeah, by the way, we should probably talk about that. Messi's first appearance, and then he scores. I mean, it does almost look scripted. You couldn't write this shit though at the same time. Which one do you go with on that one?
I mean, technically, it wasn't a foul that led to the free kick.
Oh, okay.
But the result still remains the same. I think you can ask Messi, you can try and script that as best as possible. I feel like it's not 100% guaranteed he's going to hit that top corner if you try to script that technically. I can, I don't know if Bickler's being completely serious, but I can see the idea behind having a little fun and doing something like that, but I don't think it was necessarily purposefully done.
Yeah, I doubt they scripted it that deep, but if it's not a foul, a cheap foul over there to give Messi a chance and be like, wouldn't that be kind of cool? I can see that being kind of a thing. Hey, if you can give us a foul over there in front of the box, that would really be appreciated, kind of deal. So one superstar to the other. A lot of, obviously, he didn't go to, where are they, Japan or somewhere like that? PSG. So Mbappe is on the block. I think we talked a little about this last week in terms of like why. I know Galley's editorial was actually on Mbappe as well. The funniest thing when I looked at it to find headlines over there, it says exclusive, completely uninterested in Tottenham move. I thought that was really funny. But so if offer comes in from where else but Saudi's Al Hilal, 300 million, and then they're paying him some ridiculous. What are the wages they're going to pay him?
700 million a year. Which
and
comes
it's only
out,
a year, so like Real is like, sure, knock yourself out, kind of a deal.
Every team in that scenario, it's a win-win for everyone in that scenario except for the sport. I feel like PSG get a win because they get the 300 million. The Saudis get a win because they get Mbappe for a year. Real gets the win because they get him for free afterwards, and he still goes over there. And Mbappe wins because he's making $13.5 million a week. By the time I'm finishing this point, he will have made more money while I was talking than I make in an entire month. And then the only thing that loses is the sport of football and where it's headed. I mean, I guess you could say that there's a bubble that has to burst at some point, but I don't know if we're quite there yet.
Does this kind of stuff speed up that bubble, you think? Because, I mean, you're already you brought Mbappe in, Ronaldo's already there. Obviously, I guess you missed out on Messi or whatever, but you already brought the top of the top kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. It's not like, what's next? Aside from getting Divock over there, what else could they do to take it to a next level? So does it almost like speed up that burst if there is going to be a burst?
It might. And I think, they're definitely trying to provide some legitimacy to the league. And I think if they can say, yeah, we have Mbappe, even if it's for a year, I think that will try and build as much credibility for the league as they need it to. And then, so this is for them. I mean, this is just laughable kind of money. Like all together, it's $1 billion. If you add in the 300 million for the sale and the 700 million for the year, it's $1 billion that they're throwing at this one person when you could solve world hunger with that kind of money, just like that, just like that easily. But to take that kind of money and to turn it into this kind of experiment, just because it's pretty much, I think, just like hey, kind of fuck you. Look at all the money we have. This is nothing to us. And I think that's part of the problem with where we're headed. And we're seeing it in football. We've seen it in golf. We've seen it in what else was it Formula One? Just like, at what point does it stop being like a showcase of how much money do you have? And then at what point does it begin to be actually legitimate? And I think that's sort of the line that we're trying to find out where we're at technically. But I think it would speed up the bubble because there's no one else that will ever be sold for that much money in the next, I don't know, 10 or 15 years at least.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even see somebody being justified to get that. But I mean, is it kind of like a smoke them if you got them kind of a deal? They have the money, so I'm spending it. But yeah, you're right in that sense. The way they're spending it seems more like a fuck you, I am because I can kind of a deal. Because there's no way in hell this is a smart business decision. But at the same time, if the goal is to bring the biggest stars,
that is the biggest star.
Yeah. But it's not like they can be holding out hope. They're like, maybe he'll like it here so much he won't even want to go to Real.
I don't know. I feel like as it's so hard to try and imagine what it feels like to be in that position and have that kind of money thrown at you and then be that young. And because I know we talked about, and you talked about the other guys on the other shows last week about kind of your reputation, your career. If you go over to Saudi Arabia for a couple of years, can you come back? And I think in this situation specifically, he's 24. You can kind of take this as a mulligan year where you can compare it to a year where someone was just injured the whole year, and then he comes back and everything is just as fine as it was before. So I think in me saying all of this, I completely forgot what you asked me and where I was going with it.
I think it was more like, Saudis can't be naive enough to think, oh, once he comes over here, he's going to love this so much that, he won't even think of going to Real Madrid or something like that. They know this is like a rental.
Yes.
It is a perfect scenario for Mbappe because he has already burnt the bridges there. I don't know how. I don't know what like PSG has to do. I mean, they did everything to. I mean, he just doesn't want to be there. Ultimately,
yeah,
he wants a new challenge or whatever. Does that say anything about Mbappe to you? That he's going to a team he knows will be winning stuff, as opposed to trying to take PSG to something. Or to be fair to him, it's only the Champions League, so he has one tournament where he, the world will look at him as carrying the team. Because nobody looks at the French league, and when they win it, they were like, "Oh, like Mbappe took PSG to the title or something."
Yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about last week. Is our like with Harry Kane, the empty accolades kind of thing, and Mbappe is definitely headed down But Mbappe, to his credit, has a hat trick in a World Cup final. He also, he won the World Cup several years ago too. So at least there's that part of it. But he's got so much longer to go in his career and his story that no matter where he goes, he would go to a team that has one of the best chances to win the Champions League, right? Because he's not going to go to a side like, I don't know, like Roma and will them into the Champions League final.
Yeah.
He's going to go to either Real, Barcelona, Bayern, City, like one of those teams that perennially can already win it. So I think in that respect, it's hard to see him go anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Would you want him? I guess is the biggest.
No, I know people will say, well, talent above all else, but I think drama, we've seen too much of that, and we've seen how negatively that can impact the entire club, how it can impact players in the locker room, how it can impact the city. Like, it just, there's so much that goes on behind closed doors that we don't know of either, that I don't think it would be worth it.
Yeah, I think Yadi was saying in his red story, it's almost like an annual thing. Even if we got him, let's say, we spent the money, FSG spends the money, brings him in, and he's like, oh, look at him. He's, he bought into Klopp's philosophy, blah, blah, blah. I would basically be waiting, knowing his history, when is it going to go wrong? Like, or how long is this going to last? Because the dude, I don't know if he gets bored in the situation, or initially everything is like, oh, this is really cool. And then it was just like, oh, I need to change again, kind of a deal. Or he might just want to win, and he's frustrated with how FSG is. But I mean, FSG is, PSG is. But at the same time, what else could they have done? I mean, it feels like they were already catering to everything he wanted. Messi is gone now, so there is not that whose team is this? You guys brought Messi over here. It's back to his team again. Or did he just take that whole Messi thing as, what the hell? I didn't need to win the Champions League. You guys brought this over here. We still didn't win.
Maybe a little bit of both, I think. And the problem is, I think, especially if he goes to a team like Real, I don't know if he'll get that satisfaction of being the guy either, now that you mentioned that. When you brought in the likes of Bellingham, and then you have Valverde there, you have Vinicius, you have Rodrigo, like there are already a lot of names there that are making that team theirs. And I think putting in another personality like that in that locker room, I don't even think it would be a good idea on Real's part, unless they feel really strongly about being able to incorporate him well.
I mean, just the wages and stuff like that. I mean, we've talked about this for Liverpool in the past in terms of like the balance in the locker room and stuff like that. You already have a team that's successful and young, and sadly looks like only gonna get better, right?
Yeah.
And I understand, Mbappe is just like icing on the cake to put up top to replace Benzema. You're putting a much younger version of him basically up top if you use him up top. You already have Vinicius and stuff like that. I mean, a wealth of young talents in midfield and stuff like that. Do you want to bring that, and doesn't that kind of like alienate everybody else on the team who's already like, we were winning and now we're going to pay like 4 times what I'm getting to this guy? And you have to admit, when he goes there, regardless of all these other guys and the talents, Mbappe will be in the focus. Mbappe farted in the 3rd minute. Mbappe did this. I mean, right now, like kind of how Messi is in Major League Soccer now. There's like 3 cameras on Messi, 1 camera on the game at the moment, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree with all of that. And I think in terms of, if we get matched up with them in the future in a Champions League knockout and it works in our favor, then that's great. And that's kind of how I'll look at that. Because it's been too long since.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, if he's like, if he goes there, I mean, it's very freaking scary to add a guy like that on a team that's already like that. Knowing the fun, like, if they were like, oh, we're short a center back, let's go get like the world's best kind of a deal. But it feels like anytime he goes somewhere, we're going to watch it like, when is this going to explode and implode and become a disaster again? And where will he go next? Because at that time, you would think we'll probably be worried more because he'll probably head to the Premier League now. I know there were like talks about like, obviously when someone like that is available, everybody is like kind of interested, but you would think the moment they're like, oh yeah, we're good. No, we're good. Once we have the money and everything.
Right. I think it would be pretty naive of the big clubs to not at least ask about him. It's one of those things where, like, let's say like you're back in high school, right? There's that person that you've really liked for so long, and they've finally broken up with their partner. It's like, well, I'm gonna at least find out what the chances are of me now having that chance now that they're not together.
So like an interest survey, can you feel this?
Yeah, right. I mean, I might get slapped in the face, but at least I asked, kind of thing, right? So I think it's one of those things where they have to, at least out of just I guess respect of his talent, ask what it would take to bring him over. And then from there, once you hear the price, if you're like, yeah, fuck it, it's fine. But then that's all you get, and that's fine.
John says, worst I can say is no. There's a lot of dating stories over here that's going to come out. I can already tell. So start sharing those horror stories right there where you got more than...
No dating stories. I'm married. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Ken and Barbie. Okay, so let's go back.
There's also worse things to be... Yeah, that's worse things to be called. That's fine.
Let's go back to the boys, the preseason. Today's game, I actually thought I must have looked at the timing wrong. I thought it was going to be more like a live watch along for the second half, but the comedy is already over. 4-4 against Fifth, who I honestly had not heard of before.
Against what? Against who?
Fifth. No R. My German comes out. Which I cannot speak more than 3 words anymore. It was kind of like my 3rd language back in high school, because obviously your English is 2nd and then you get a 3rd one, and the options were German and French. So I was like, I guess I'll do German. Don't ask why. And then the German, I could speak a little bit. I can still understand when Klopp says something or a German coach says something. Like, I know certain words. I'm like, this is the gist of it kind of thing, but I can't work 2 puts together. But I know you don't pronounce the R. So
I wonder if anyone on their bingo card this morning had Timochin and myself talking about our high school days in the same episode.
Anyway, back to Germans. So they 4-4 is the final score of that game.
Yeah.
How concerned should we be that? I know it doesn't mean anything, but do the leaking goals mean anything?
No. Because I watched the second half. I thought to myself, when I came back home on a high from Barbie last night, I was laying in bed and I was thinking to myself, this match starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Can I do it? Should I do it? Like what are the benefits? What are the pros and cons here?
And Michelle is like, go for it, Ken. And you're
She was already asleep at that point.
Oh,
And so yeah, and so I said, if I wake up, I wake up. If not, no big deal. I woke up for the second half, so I saw the whole second half. And the leaking goals in the second half was just abysmal passing between Adrian, Gomez, and Matip, and just being completely disconnected in the back. So I don't think there's much to be worried about there unless we see Van Dijk and Konate pick up major knocks that keep them out for a long time. I think we're severely lacking center back depth, and we've talked about that. So that's not a secret. But I think what happened between that back line and that second half, because it was mixed with youth and then Gomez, Matip, and Andre, but it was really bad. But I don't think it's concerning unless they're forced to play together all the time.
And that's what John is saying. The backup center backs are a little concerning, huge drop off. And Z says we have to buy a center back or two, can go into the new season with. And that's the thing, because Konate, as history, has not been always reliable and has gotten a knock here and there and missed some time. And with the Europa, especially, like Thursday, Sunday action, you're not going to be able to keep starting these dudes over and over again. And I'm not as worried about Matip and Gomez if they were next to, I think, Van Dijk or Konate. I think some of this becomes, especially with center backs, of being used to playing with each other. I mean, I can't remember a lot of times where Matip and Gomez played with each other as a center back duo. And that ordeal is a lot about like synergy and being on the same page and stuff like that, because there's a lot of almost like silent communication that happens just by like being used to what I thought. Actually, I did not get to watch the first game, but I did last game. I thought actually Gomez had like a really good game, and I was like, yeah. And John says too, you think Gomez would fit in the new system so well, but he's always prone to both a moment or two. And I think that's the only problem you get with Gomez. And I think the issue has become, and I even noticed it in that game, is I think opponents know he's the one to force an error, right? As you play a game and as you actually get ready for a game, even in the lower levels, you know who you can force into a mistake, especially in the pro levels. I mean, that becomes a lot more tactical and a lot more advanced, where, it becomes the trigger for the press and stuff like that when the ball is going to that person. You think Gomez has kind of like set himself up now for being a target of the extra pressing or like, more defensive work against him, knowing they can force him into a mistake?
Probably, yeah. And that's, I think it's really dependent on how the system plays out moving forward. Because if he's in with Van Dijk or Konate, because like you said, we probably are not going to see Gomez and Matip together. If he's in on that right side and Trent is playing that inverted role, that's going to be a lot to take in for him on that right side. And I think teams will continue to attack that side over and over, knowing exactly what you said, is that he's prone to these moments where it just switches off. But on his day, back during the title winning season, the league winning season, sorry, he was fantastic. And he's had those stretches where he's just been absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, like John has said, and like you have said, he has these moments where it just shuts off. And at this level, you can't have those kinds of moments that frequently. One every couple months, so be it. But you can't have one or two a game, what it feels like.
Yeah, so he says Gomez is also injury prone. I think Gomez's injuries always have been, like, Gomez rarely is out for 2 weeks because he got a knock at practice or something like that. Sadly, he's had some serious injuries like that Burnley game and stuff like that, where he's been out for like longer periods. But overall, like, I guess maybe because he doesn't get a lot of chances. But heck, I mean, Keita didn't get a lot of chances either, but he would get knocked, injured like during practice and stuff like that. I think Gomez is like a good alternative to have as the right back and as the center back and stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, and here's the thing, he has become what Lauren was and stuff like that. Like anything that goes wrong, he automatically gets the blame. Whereas
Scapegoat.
like he does the build up. I think like Matip and him, especially on the ground build up from the back, a lot better. I know, like, they don't have the diagonal like Van Dijk has and stuff like that, but I think they're better in that sense. But a misplaced pass there, and they get all the blame in the world. Whereas, if Konate does that, and he does, he does not get as much of the criticism as like Gomez would. But so when do you start to take these games seriously? Because if you look at the schedule, we do that trip now, right? Leicester City and then Bayern within like 3 days, Sunday, Wednesday, and then we come back August 7th, play Darmstadt. No
Nice.
R once again. And then the Chelsea game comes up. So at what point do we look at it and say, this is what we're going to get against Chelsea? This is the final product.
I don't know if we ever get to that point because preseason is so difficult to measure the team as a whole. I think you can take individual pieces from preseason and look at a player and see what he is able to do on the pitch and feel a little better, a little worse about him individually. But as a collective, I think it's hard to take much out of it and take it too seriously. Like in today's game, for example, I think it was really positively reinforcing to see Nunez so calm on the ball. A couple touches he took for the goals he scored were fantastic. Like it was the most relaxed I think he's looked since he was at Benfica. Not Benfica. Why am I? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry. The most he's looked.
I'm playing advantage. Keep going. Yes.
Yeah. Usually, I mean, you just let me keep blabbing on, even if I'm completely wrong, which is like 90% of the time. But that's fine. So he looked incredibly composed. Had a great assist to Salah at the end of the game too. So I think those little bits and pieces are good to take and be excited for. But as a whole, I'm not taking anything from this until the Chelsea match, honestly. And that's, I think, I think it was Kazi maybe that said something about, they lost every preseason game the year they won the title, the league. So yeah, it's tough to take a lot cohesively as a unit, but it's good to take little bits individually.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think like the score matters or anything like that. It's just a matter of you want to see certain things and be like, okay, that's going to be good. And I think out of all those, it's probably Nunez that's the goals, if nothing else, regardless of who it's against or whatever, is a confidence builder. And that's what that kid really, really needed in this offseason. But I think at the same time, you want to look at your depth and see if those pieces are there, like the center backs we're talking about and stuff like that. Kazi says, Gomez needs a runoff games, starts every Europa League game and all cup games to see where he's at. And I think he's a good for that. I mean, I think he was reliable for that and he will do well. I like Gomez as a player. I think, yes, he has had some bonehead plays, but I think like skill-wise, attitude-wise, and I think like ability-wise, like physical ability-wise, like having the pace and stuff like that, he fits the system. And I think, this is kind of like, especially for center backs, sometimes you gotta be careful about making changes in that position, and you gotta make sure you're getting the person that you really, really wanted that fits. You just don't want to get another center back, because then this guy is like, he doesn't make bad passes, but he's slow as fuck, so it's like, you want to be careful, because getting that, it's a tough system to play center back in. That's another thing. It gives a lot to the center back. Your right back takes off, your left back takes off. So you're on an island a lot with one-on-one. So you will end up making more mistakes too. So it's probably not fair. But I agree with the preseason. It's just a matter of building confidence, obviously building like stamina and all that kind of stuff. But you can't help but watch individual performances, even though sometimes it's not fair because the guy playing next to them is not the guy that would normally be playing next to them and stuff like that. So
I think, and we'll get to this question too. I think taking away who you're playing next to, I think it's just the decisions you make at the moment that you need to make them, or the decisions you make with the ball. I think that's primarily what I would be looking at versus not being used to like being out of position because you're not used to playing with this guy next to you. Like I get that part of it. I think more importantly, I just kind of focus on what you do in that moment that you need to make that decision and how you react to it. I think that's the most telling sign of how you're reacting to the game and how your preseason is going is based on that, if that makes sense.
John says, question for you guys. Total number of Nunez goals and assists next year. I think he has 25. Well, I think that's easy.
Doing 25 is
Easily
easy.
over 25. If you're doing over or under, I'm definitely taking over. Heck, Anand had him scoring more goals than Mo. And, Kazi and I will have to buy him jerseys. Where are you at number-wise for it?
Where do you see him at? Just total number. What do you think? Because you said easy. So I'm wondering what that means. Like 40 goals and assists in all comps? Is that where you're at?
35 to 40. Yeah.
35 to 40?
Because I think he will play. I think we were talking about this with Kazi. Like if he has even a chance of scoring more goals than Mo, it will be because he's probably going to play more of the Europa games, and he might be able to, go in a game and get like 2-3 because against like some, like lower competition. We throw him out there, or he comes in like garbage time to get 20 minutes before he starts the weekend. Whatever case it is, even if he's a starter in the Europa or the Premier League, you would think those guys, we know how Klopp Laurent likes to do things. They would come in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes, for example, of the Europa game on Thursday, and then they would start like on Sunday. So, he comes in garbage time in the 20 minutes, gets goals, or in the beginning, he's basically playing against more inferior defenses compared to Premier League. So I think he gets a lot of goals mainly because of that.
Okay. I'm a bit more pessimistic based on not being sure of how rotation will go during the season. I think
look at today. He got 2 goals and an assist, right?
Yeah.
That's 3 right there in one game.
He's 10% of the way. I'm not, and trust me, I want this to happen. I guess I'm a little bit more reserved in that prediction because I don't want to be too disappointed, I suppose, because I think if he gets those minutes, I think that's what's expected. And I think if he doesn't hit that mark, I think we'll be disappointed. And so I think I will kind of back off a little bit and say 25 altogether in all comps. I think that's where I'll sit, and I'll be happily. I'll be ecstatic if he gets over 30, kind of thing.
Goals and assists combined, really, man. You guys are like kind of going low on him. I mean, I'm looking at.
I just don't think there's a guarantee that if he's playing really well, he's not going to be wasted in the Europa League. If his form is
comes in the last 30 minutes.
He won't.
See,
I think if his form is incredible during the Premier League, I think he will be saved for those games and not play as much Europa. So I don't think he'll have as much time in those garbage games. I don't know. I guess that's where I'm sitting at with it.
And I'm trying to see. I mean, you look at last year, he had 15 goals.
Yeah, 19 in all comps, I think Kazi just said.
Yeah, 15 goals and 4 assists he had last year on a year where we consider, he was struggling and stuff. And he didn't play as much because, we were in the Champions League and, this is Europa because of the Thursday thing. I feel like he's going to get, 35 sounds good. Definitely over the 25 that John was asking. Last question before we head out over here. Would you play Gomez at right back if Trent moves to midfield against Chelsea? This is the scary part, right? Because when we keep seeing Trent there, it's mainly because of lack of options. But it's the 24th, and if nobody is in now still, and nowhere near looks like being in and over the line as a defensive midfielder, they're not going to start against Chelsea. So are we pretty much set at Trent possibly starting there against Chelsea, or would it be maybe McAllister going into the 6th and
that's
and stuff?
That's what I would expect more.
McAllister?
Yeah. Than Trent.
Yeah, John says don't have Trent play the inconsistent against PL opponents. And I agree. I think it would be, and it would not be a smart move. But to answer the question, I mean, yes, because I think you don't have any other options. That's another thing.
You don't have Milner to throw it right back. So, the next choice would be Gomez.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, there's really no way around it otherwise. But I would be okay with it. I guess if that's I'm assuming that's more Alan's question. Like, are we okay with him as a
We
right back? And I am.
we'd have to be, right? I mean, because there wouldn't be any other situation where I'd be happier than
Yeah.
if nothing changes with the squad as far as who's on the team, then that would be the best solution at that point. If that is what Klopp wants, is Trent in that DM role. If he's just doing this just right now, just to maybe just play around with it, but it doesn't really matter because he won't go with Trent there, then all of this is for nothing. But yeah, I think we'd have to be fine with it, and I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I think performance-wise, I'm more than okay with it. Kazi says, I think we'll know in the next 10 days. Liverpool don't sign the defensive midfielder. My gut feeling is the moment Fab deal and those vicious dogs are allowed in Saudi Arabia, and the money is official, is when we take that money and then don't even cash it. We're just gonna like reroute it, write somebody else's name on it, and I think that's going to be finalized. Because if something like this, I mean, think about it. If you spent 50 and got the defensive midfield, there's and then freaking these vicious dogs over there are causing trouble in Saudi Arabia, and Fabinho has to come back. I just don't see a scenario like that. But
so here's a question for you. I don't know if you just asked me a question, but I'm gonna flip the switch here real quick.
Just to make you more happy, I'll put you here.
Thank you. If the Fab deal does fall through and he has to come back, what do you think happens? How do you think that gets taken care of?
I think that's fine. I mean, that's kind of a deal where
do you think he would slot into that DM role?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you think he'd play there against Chelsea? Yeah.
Because I think it's not. I mean, that was the plan. So it's very easy for Klopp to say, "This was our plan all along." They came in the last minute. You listen to an offer. That's how things are. He's going to say that, and this is how it is. You listen to an offer. It was a good offer. The player wanted to go. It didn't work out, so we're happy to have him back, and he's your defensive midfielder kind of deal. So I think it would be an easy transition back into the starting role. I mean, you're basically saying, hey, this was a $40 million, $40 million defensive midfielder, and you're not going to put him in your like starting lineup, whereas the kid you were gonna buy for 50, you're gonna put in there. I don't see him coming back, but I think even if he does, I think it's like an easier route. And I've been saying it all along. I think the Fab deal is a lot more easier for a fan like me to swallow, because you did not have the same expectation. I actually, at least, I kind of said this in my editorial too, that that's my fault for basically holding Henderson to a higher standard and saying he would not go for the money. He's a Liverpool guy. He would stay. He would not sell out, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, I don't blame Fabinho for taking the money on the contract and all that kind of stuff. So I think along the same lines, it would be easier for him to come back when it comes to fans as well. Because there are a lot of people still saying they're okay with Hendo going, but not Fab going. That could be partially because there's no replacement for him, and they felt like, Hendo was not going to play a lot anyway. But I think it's still the fact that, like he would slot right in and play in that role. I am more than okay, though, with going younger over there as we kind of like take the step in the midfield youthification, if you will. But let's face it, we did not plan on it either. Like 2 weeks ago, we were not like, man, we should have really gotten somebody young to replace Fabinho. I think we felt like he would have a lot easier time and he would probably regain his form because now he has, McAllister and Szoboszlai and stuff like that in midfield, more running and things like that. We never said, that was one piece we never replaced, man. This is going to come and bite us in the ass. We were looking for more of like a backup for him so we don't wear him down. So I think if he comes back, we're more than happy to take him and slot him in. But I agree with Kazi. That's when like the Bayern conversation will come in. I think he would freaking come and go over there. I think they'll have made the call on Fabinho late on now, and they have made plans without him. I think at this point you would think Klopp is like, okay, so that's the done deal. What are we going to do over here? I hope so, because this limbo is really what scares me, to be honest with you. So we'll see. I'm going to get the boys' take on that too, because it's just kind of nothing is happening. It feels like. By my gut feeling is the moment Fab deal is official, boom, we get something the next day, kind of like the Soboslai deal within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done. How worried are you that there is nothing happening?
A little bit. I mean, I don't know. I just feel weird about him coming back and just being slot right back in. I don't know. I'm not as confident about that as you are about him just being able to be thrown back into that DM role and then being there. I don't know. I feel like it's not going to have a positive impact on the team. But I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's football. Like these guys are professionals. They'll play with whoever they need to play with. I just feel like we've run the course with Fabinho, and it would be weird to see him come back and then just slot right back in. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Dude, like even I think in terms of like mood, I mean, if you've ever been like in an environment at work where a dude goes, right, he's going like to another job or a promotion or whatever, he's doing all his farewells, goes around the office, packs up his shit and stuff like that, and something happens or it doesing work out or they change their mind, he comes up, it's just never the same dynamic again.
It's not
even in that environment. So I can see something like you still work and everything moves along, but in the back of the head you kind of have that thing going, but that does not come. And I think that goes back to this, like the captaincy and stuff like that we talk about too. I don't think that comes into the foreground until things go wrong. As long as things are going smooth, all that stuff gets left in the background. When things go bad, that's when people will say, well, who's the captain to lead this team and shake him off? And that's when people will be like, Hendo was over there yelling and screaming, getting people woke up, like X as the captain is not doing that and stuff like that. So sadly, some of those issues will come to play when shit hits the fan, if you will. Kazi says, I think Lavia's deal is done. Fabinho leaves, Lavia walks in. I think so. It just almost seems too logical, but we don't always do logical. I guess my biggest fear with the Lavia deal is we've talked about it way too long. And whenever we talk about a player this long, it never happens. Yeah. It feels like. So that's, I guess, like my bigger concern. So, but we shall see. So Barbie is now out in all theaters. Got a good review over here from our friend Matush. If you want to go check that out. What else did we do today? Learned a little bit of German, some dating tips.
Danke.
Yeah. But see, we were talking French a couple of weeks ago. Now we're talking German. Such an international show. I'm the Turkish one. You're the Polish prince. Good times. Okay. Have a great week, everybody. I'll be back with like these two American dudes tonight. Gally.
Those two fucking mutts.
Gally and Bickler will be joining me tonight at our regular time, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, for our Monday live podcast. We will see you guys then. Have an awesome week, everybody.